Yeah, yes.
It's October 6, 2024, and I'm with Mr. John Jeckovich, and we're reading his book, Their Mother's Sons. It's approximately 900 pages, and we're on chapter 19, titled Courting Delphine, on page 573. Mr. Jeckovich was in Company H, 2nd Battalion, the 291st Regiment of the 75th Infantry Division of the U.S. Army during World War II. Mr. Jeckovich, what's your dog tag number?
Not 42659.
All right. I'll pick up from where I was left reading yesterday about courting Delphine. It's Delphine Stulak. That's his future wife, and actually they long became married for over 69 years. Boy, you got me down pretty pat, and you've known me for only a short while, I exclaimed. What else do you know about me? I'm hoping for the best and expecting more accolades. Well, I know you're honest and candid, and you would never say anything you didn't mean. You're sincere and well-intentioned, and besides, Rosalie and Agnes say you're great, and I agree. I was touched by her sentiments and took her hand and kissed it. She reached over and kissed me. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Behind Grant, she interjected, and I nodded as I pulled her toward me, and I kissed her several times, and the fragrance of her perfume enamored me as it has done all evening. Delphine must have sensed my desires, for she pulled back and said she must go. A couple minutes more, I implored, releasing my arm about her and resting my back against the car door. You should carry some Kleenex around with you, she suggested, rubbing her thumb and finger. She rested her back against my chest, and I placed my hand on each. The next night, I met Delphine at the same time, and I noted how chic she appeared, with once again the small floral corsage tucked onto the side of her skirt. It was warm outside, and she wore only a skirt and blouse with black high heels. She looked elegant, and I remarked how great she looked as she approached me, and she was pleased at my comments and became a little flustered at all the attention I was showering her. I took her hand and walked to the car and asked her what she did like to do. She did not have anything in mind. I thought the first thing we should do is get something to eat. We did not want to go to the Red Devil once again, get something at least. We did not want to go to the Red Devil once again, so we decided to go to the local Your Host for a light snack and determine what to do next. You're kind of ignoring Rosalie and Agnes when you're out with me, I quipped, curious to see how she would answer. Not really, she responded. I see them all day at work, and I enjoy being with you. The creator questioned me about the next day about one of our meetings. I smiled at her answer. They're pretty nosy, I said, knowing full well she knew I was being playful. I watched as she ate, and her lips moving motion was sensuous and provocative. I won't see you for a while after tonight, I remarked, motioning the waitress for the check. I know, she said, that's difficult for me, getting used to your absence. I mentioned that it was hard for me also, as I got used to her company, and it was painful to depart, not to see one another for several days.
Yeah.
She seemed surprised at my statement and said she had never thought of it in that light. I followed her out of the restaurant, admiring how she swayed from side to side. What now? Taking her hand and walking back to the car, I suggested a movie, and we settled on a double feature, one a war movie, and the other an Andy Hardy feature. What's an Andy Hardy?
Andy Hardy was a sitcom comic.
Oh,
too.
comedy.
Yeah.
Okay. We came in the middle of the news as we got settled into our seats. I put my arm around her and she took my hand. The movie was not that great, but I enjoyed sitting beside Delphine. She would move her leg towards me in the less dramatic parts and take and hold my arm during the dramatic part events. Sitting there next to me, I wondered on what brought us together. Coincidence, or was it some common, compelling, all-seeing force that united us?
What?
I'm just reading. For a moment I thought of the night in Kenmore in front of Valerie's house, and a sudden image of Renee appearing in my mind. Was all interconnected, or was it just a figment of my imagination? The loud explosion on the screen jarred my thoughts, and I turned to Delphine. So you went to a lot of movies there?
No.
No.
Once a month,
Oh,
probably.
yeah. And then where was Delphine working at the time you were courting her?
She was in the ranch.
W.T. Grants, right? I see. And about how many miles was from Orleans Avenue to Coons Avenue? About how many miles was
About
that?
22, 23.
Okay, that's not bad. That's basically around the corner. And then how many years did you court Delphine before you're married? How many years did you court Delphine before you were married?
About a year.
About a year, okay. And your wedding was in Buffalo?
Buffalo, yeah.
Yeah. That's nice. That's very nice. And then your mother and Delphine got along quite well, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's very interesting. So, let me continue reading then. The rain finally stopped when we reached the inn, and by the looks of the near empty parking lot, there were not too many people inside. We got a table away from the dance floor and the band, and I ordered something to eat while Delphine freshened up. I was correct in my assumption about the place being empty, and there was only 2 or 3 couples scattered about the area. Delphine returned, and I could see that she had applied more makeup in her face, which gave her a radiant glow that I admired very much. Waited for our order as we danced, we both a little self-conscious as we were only couple on the dance floor. I soon realized as Delphine, and it was not long before we overcame our discomfort and actually enjoyed dancing alone on the dance floor. We danced several numbers that the band played and even became friendly with the members of the band as we revolved around the dance floor. I had ordered a charcoal broiled steak and a large dish of French fries, along with a bowl of assorted salad. I knew Delphine would not eat much. Instead, we would both share the same dinner. She munched on the fries, and I would cut a piece of the steak and place it on her plate. After a while, it became a game of swords to see who would eat the most of the steak. We had several cups of coffee, dancing in between, nibbling on the remainder of the French fries and steak. The floor was empty except for the Delphine and me, and we were enjoying ourselves. Her body was a delight to hold as we moved about. I kept pressing her firmly and was afraid of losing me. As I listened to her, holding her closely as we danced, I was thinking what to say to quell the turmoil within. I don't think you're dull or drab. Far from it. I always look forward to seeing you and how you look. She looked up at me, smiling. You were always a good talker. I guess that what made me envious of your talent. I always felt inferior. Enough of this nonsense. Let's go home. It's getting late. And besides, we got some serious talking to do. I won't be seeing you the next long weekend, I exclaimed, as we circled the floor for the last time. I'll be going to my brother's wedding in Pittsburgh along with my mother and sister. How was the brother's wedding? Where was that at?
The what?
Where was your brother's wedding at?
Pittsburgh.
Was it a long ride from Niagara Falls?
Oh, it's about 3 hours, 4 hours.
And how'd the wedding go?
All right, it was crowded, a lot of people.
Okay. And then how long you stay in Pittsburgh for?
I stayed that day after the wedding, we left back home.
Okay. All right. She listened intently but said nothing as I remarked to see her that she would be disappointed at the news. After a while,
19 minutes.
we remarked that my mother must be excited about the wedding and was looking forward to it. Yes, they're fairly excited about going. And I wish I could feel the same, but I just can't get too enthusiastic about it. I stated as we returned to our table, I got the attention for the check from the waiter, and Delphine left for the partner room to freshen up. As I sat there waiting for her to return, I thought of our relationship and how it progressed at such a rapid pace. How we were comfortable with one another and talked freely about many subjects. I felt that this building was toward the climax, and my only concern was that I not botch it up as I won't to do. Delphine returned smiling, an appearance precipitated in deep concern for her well-being. I felt a sense of responsibility for her and what I would burden her if we continued our relationship. I did not want to cause her frustration or hardship. She deserved better than that. What are you thinking about now? She asked as she stood in front of me waiting to leave. I looked at her, and hey, you have an uncanny way of perceiving my thoughts, I remarked, thanking her as we walked out to the car. When we entered the car, I embraced her and began kissing her, and she responded warmly, pausing for a moment to remove her earrings. We must go, she faintly suggested, moving her body slightly away. It's getting late. I'm not comfortable with being in this darkened lot. I agreed, and we immediately drove off, heading back toward Buffalo and Bailey Avenue. What kind of street was Bailey Avenue?
Bailey Avenue was a busy street.
Busy. Okay. A little while later, we reached Delphine's house. What street did Delphine live on?
The what?
What street did Delphine?
Coombs.
Was it a very congested street with many houses?
Oh, there was no empty lots on that street, no.
No. A little later, we reached Delphine's house, and I pulled up and turned the headlights and ignition off. It was after midnight. When will I see you again? I turned into her and took her hand, waiting for an answer. How are you working? She asked, looking at me intently, seeking more than an answer to inquiry. That's always a problem. It always came back to my basic question about my stupid job. And before she could say anything, I stammered out that I would be working afternoons for the next several days, followed by the 2 days off, if I was lucky. She said nothing, and I could see that she was flustered at my statement. I was embarrassed after seeing her reaction. I'll call you in several days, I gently remarked, trying to atone for my outburst. She quickly responded, saying that would be fine, and then we could plan something from there. I did not want to leave just then, not until I had more opportunity to rectify. Delphine moved in close to me, and I reached over and kissed her cheek and said, "I'm sorry for the outburst." She smiled and said, "Don't be silly. You only said what was true. Besides, I think working different shifts is horrible." Did you like working shift work?
Do what?
Did you like working shift work?
No.
No. I felt better, but I still wanted to be with her. A few minutes more to ease the bad impression I had created by my ill temper. We sat for a while and talked about leaving my brother's wedding, which was another irritant. I did not elaborate on it or be responded in a general way to her various questions. I must be going in, she stated, and walked into the house's side door, kissed her, and said I would call her in a few days. She concurred, a little flustered at the barking dogs in the kitchen, and entered the house. I was irritated at myself for my manner regarding my work, and I promised myself that I would be more in control and not let my frustrations get the better of me. If so, I wanted to make a good impression with Delphine and not jeopardize our relationships in any way. It seemed like every time I had good intentions, they would backfire on me and come out to my determined. I felt that Delphine thought less of me for my emancipation and for working shift work. I never really put the episode of my work aside and kept turning it over in my mind over and over again. I recalled Valerie's reaction to my work. Even though it was subdued, it was reactive enough to dissolve our association, and I did not want to happen this with Delphine. This was the first time I had really disliked my work. If I had stopped to think for a moment why I became so agitated in front of Delphine, it would have afforded me an insight into my feelings. I started afternoons the next day. After seeing Delphine, I felt like I wanted to quit right then and there and start all over again. But of course I did not, and I faintly went into at 3:30. Naturally, as might be expected, the machine was down for all maintenance outages and would start up sometime on our shift. What happens when the machine is down? You said at work the machine was down.
Well, they either wash it up or fix it, and they went down for maintenance or something.
What kind of maintenance?
Maybe they went down to have plug dryer or something.
What kind of maintenance would they have to do on a machine like that?
Well, gears, oiling, electrical,
How long does maintenance take?
Huh?
How long does maintenance generally take?
Well, they could be down for a whole day. Shut down at 7 o'clock and start up at 10.
Did you do the maintenance on the machine?
No.
Who did the maintenance?
Maintenance.
Well, they're the ones that just specialized in that. So what did you do during the machine being down?
Well, we probably checked something that we had going wrong with during while it was running. We looked at that and to get the maintenance on that. Then we cleaned up the area.
How big was the machine?
The machine was probably a mile and a half long.
It's a big machine.
Well, not a big machine, but long.
Long.
The dryers were probably, I would say, 40 feet in diameter.
And what exactly was the function of the machine? What did it make?
It made paper. They'd take wet, bulky paper, put it through the dryers, sections of the dryers, 2 sections of the dryer. By the time it come off the wet, dry end, it was paper, printing on both sides.
And how did you cut it?
Cut it?
Yeah, wasn't it very large?
No, we didn't cut it. We rolled it up in 30, 40, 50, 6-inch rolls, and they shipped it out to the printers.
And then the printer would print.
Printers did what they wanted to do with it.
And then the printers would print and then cut it to the shape of the book or something.
A book or a magazine or newspaper or something.
So each roll is what, 4 feet long?
No, there wasn't. The rolls were, I would say, 5, 6, 7, 8 feet in diameter.
I said, how length? What's the length?
Huh?
What was the length of them?
Length?
Yeah.
It was a diameter. In diameter, you measured the diameter from the center to the end. It was probably 4 or 5 feet from center to center.
Okay. And how long was it about?
It was rolled up. You couldn't ship nothing that long.
Oh, okay.
So you rolled it up and they were probably 150 pounds a piece.
And who came and picked them up?
Who?
Who came and picked them up?
It goes all over the country, probably all over the world for printers.
Kimberly-Clark had their own trucks to deliver them?
Huh?
Did Kimberly-Clark have?
No, they came in, truckers came out off their own business and picked them up.
Okay, I didn't know that. So most of the paper was used for magazines.
Magazine. It had to be 2 colors. You had to be able to print on both sides.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting.
10 minutes.
Afternoons were more difficult pace in the atmosphere for the midnight shift where everyone was more relaxed. There was not too many people about on midnights after the operating cruise, and if the machine did not break down, it was restful sort of time, with the exception of being that I had to stay awake. On the other hand, afternoons were much like the day shift for the first several hours, when you had many people, engineers, management, maintenance, and assortment of test and process people. Then about 5 or 6 p.m., they all cleared out and left us alone, providing everything ran well and getting a halfway decent product out. On startups, everyone hung around until the machine was started up and running satisfactory. After this criteria was met, everyone took off and the peace and tranquility were restored once again. Everyone sort of relaxed, and the only thing we had to sweat out was whether or not our relief came in. What happens if your relief didn't come in?
Hey, I had to work over 4 hours.
You had to stay, right?
Unless you got somebody else to take your place.
At home when I worked afternoons, there was no one around. Mother would be working and Sally was in school. Depending on whether Lookie was working or not, the house was empty. I would read, but some needed work around the house, and generally take it easy until I left for work that afternoon. This time would be an ideal period to see Delphine if she did not live so far off and was not working at that time. I would think of her as I whiled away at the time before going to work. I still wondered and fretted over my presence and her reactions to it, knowing that she would never say anything directly about it. That Sunday afternoon, I called Delphine from the train depot station, deciding that would be the best time before I left for work. She was home, and her younger sister answered the phone and went to get her. I heard someone pick up the phone at the other end, and I responded, "Hi, how are you doing?" Delphine answered immediately, "Hi, I thought it would be you, as I felt you'd call this afternoon." She answered cheerfully, as expected, and I was delighted to hear her voice. I thought I would call her before I left for work and see how you were doing. I exclaimed, feeling awkward at the incidental phone conversation taking place. What really wanted to say was I missed her and wanted to see her again. Instead, we carried on a superficial exchange. Neither one of us was comfortable. I did manage to set a time when we could meet the following Thursday on the next day off. She agreed and said that she looked forward to our meeting and that it was not too far off, only 3 more days. She did mention that the fact that she'd be getting through with work earlier that day, about 3 or 4 to make up for some time she was due working over. I said that was great and asked her to think of some things we could do that afternoon. We talked for several minutes more and finally said goodbye. The only thing left for me was to wait till Thursday to come around. I'm saying goodbye to Delphine, and I almost inadvertently said, "I love you," but I checked myself before actually saying the words. As I drove back to the train station, I mulled over in my mind why I did not say the words and could not come to a plausible conclusion. I also thought about the idea of leaving for Buffalo that early in the afternoon, which meant that I would be going before Mother got out of work. I could not pick up her from work, which has always made her frustrated. I resigned myself to the fact that I would receive some blistering verbal lashing regarding this, but was still willing to accept it and feel not too bad about it. Mother had been rather cantankerous in the last several weeks, and I expected her finally to get into my direction. I anticipated that not driving her home from work would set her off immediately. When to tell her of my plans for Thursday was uncertain and unpredictable, as I never saw her in any length of time. When I got home from work at midnight, Mother was already asleep, and early in the morning, I was asleep when she left for work. I thought of leaving a note, but thought better of it, thinking it would disturb her all the more. What I finally did was get up early Tuesday morning and join her for coffee before she left for work. It was then I broke the news to her. Naturally, she was a little irritated, but the only thing she brought up was that she hoped I could find enough time to go to my brother's wedding next week. I said nothing and she left the house to go to work, not even putting her empty cup away.
Just 4 minutes.
How many?
4.
I washed and dried the cups and went back to bed, but I did not get to sleep after that. That Thursday afternoon, I left for Buffalo, thinking all the way about what we could do. After a while, I gave up and hoped that Delphine would come up with something. I was finding out that it was becoming more and more difficult to find what to do to fill the time when we're seeing Delphine. I guess I was too rigid in my thinking and that we had to do something every moment when, in reality, I just enjoyed being with her. I believe she felt the same way, but did not want to make the first move in that direction. I decided I would test the ground, so to speak, and see how she would react. I knew that we're having a difficult time filling the hours, trying to find something to do away with our time as seeing one another. I spotted her leaving the store a little bit before 4, and I could see even from a distance that she looked very smart. She was wearing a black velvet halter top shirt with a white blouse and dark pumps, and on one side was a small red rose painted to her waist. Hi, I greeted her admiringly. You look great, I said, taking her hand and falling into step with her. The clicking sound of her high heels on the concrete pavement awoke in my yearning desire, which grew in intensity. I'm hungry, I ventured, opening the door for her. How about you? She said she's a little hungry and she had a light lunch and no
2 minutes.
and no breakfast that morning. We would care to go to the Red Devil once again or somewhere else. I asked, knowing that she would be agreeable to my suggestion. What was the Red Devil?
Red Devil was a restaurant.
What kind of restaurant was it?
What kind of a restaurant?
Yeah. What kind?
It served different foods. Nice restaurant.
How far was that from Delphine's work?
I would say halfway home.
So it was close then, right?
Yeah.
Well, they have mostly Polish food or Italian?
No, everything. Regular restaurant, variety.
So they had a nice variety.
Yeah.
And you went there often?
Well, once or twice a month, yeah.
Oh, that was nice.
After a while, you get tired. What are we gonna do now? Where are we gonna go? What are we gonna do? Where are we gonna go?
Yeah, it sounds like it is.
I was telling her, I said, geez, I hope we get married though, so I have to put off this nonsense going back and forth.
So there was a lot of figuring out every day where you'd go.
Oh, yeah.
Why couldn't you just go to Delphine's house and sit there?
Huh?
Why couldn't you just go to Delphine's house and sit there?
Sit there?
Yeah, Delphine's house.
Oh, come on.
Minutes?
That's no fun.
Yeah.
He couldn't smooch her there.
So you had a hard time figuring out what to do.
Huh? Every time we went there, you had to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we picked up Rosalie and Eddie too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of guy was Eddie?
Anyway, it's all talked about cars. He's a nice kid, but he's goofy.
Goofy.
Yeah.
Was he a mechanic?
No, he thought he was. No, he didn't work on cars. He knew a lot about cars, compression, ratios, combustion, all that nonsense.
Unbelievable, huh?
Yeah.
So-
5 seconds.
Oh, wow. That's something.
Yeah.